I'm back in a shack now.
Oh,
You're not Morrigan.
I didn't know you were awake. I swear.
When I almost die and I wake up in someone's house, it's supposed to be Morrigan's house. Haven't you played these games before? Yeah, why are you afraid? Is it because I, like, destroy the world and have a rift in my hand?
Why are you frightened? What happened?
That's wrong, isn't it? I said the wrong thing.
I don't think so.
I beg your forgiveness and your blessing. I am but a humble servant. You are back in Haven, my lady. They say you saved us. The breach stopped growing, just like the mark on your hand.
I've still never seen the mark on my hand. They always hide it from me behind that
It's
globe.
all anyone has talked about for the last 3 days.
So, I did it? I saved the world?
Then the danger is over.
The breach is still in the sky, but that's what they say. I'm certain Lady Cassandra would want to know you've wakened. She said, at once,
And where is she?
in the Chantry, with the Lord Chancellor. At once, she said.
Jeez, elves are anorexic as anything. My gosh, she's got freaking twigs for arms and legs. Hey, loot. Obviously I'm supposed to see that. Why is there a box of elf... Oh, wait, that's what the elf was bringing in here. Vain hope. Someone better at this than me take... Vain hope. Someone better than me takes over this before the survivor expires. Notes in case. Day 1. Clammy. Shallow breathing. Pulse over fast. Not responsive. Pupils dilated. Mage says her scarring mark is throbbing with unknown magic. Wish we could station her Templar here, just in case. So, this is 3 days later, because they said that for 3 days I've been talking about how awesome I am. Which is, I would have liked to be around for that, when everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're amazing! Okay, I can't read that. Hi everyone! Have these guys been standing out here for 3 days, or is it just because I woke up and the elf went screaming through the square that said I was...
That's her. That's the
Herald
Herald of Andraste.
of Andraste?
They said when she came out of the Fade, Andraste herself was watching over her.
Hush. Shouldn't disturb her.
I'm gonna go through your houses. This house is boring.
Why did Lady Cassandra have her in chains? I thought Seekers knew everything.
It's complicated. We were all frightened after the explosion at the conclave.
Ooh, so I can... Okay, no. They're like, no, you have to go this way. Fine. Ooh, hey, another note. What does this say? Andraste's Mabari? You know Andraste's old Mabari? He doesn't show up in the chant, and if you ask those holy sisters, well, they'll say Andraste can't have some big old smelly war dog, but all for Relden know it right. Our sweet lady needed someone who would warm her feet at night. And then there's Andraste's Mabari. By the holy prophet's side, in the fight against Aventer, that dog would never hide. They say the Maker sent him special, always loyal without pride, so he could be a sworn companion to the Maker's holy bride. Oh, that dog he guards Andraste without arrogance or fear, only asking of his mistress just a scratch behind the ear. And then old Mafroth gets a plot and tries to lure that dog away, but even as they trap the prophet, her Mabari never strays. And then there's Andraste's Mabari, by the holy prophet's side. In the fight against Aventers, that dog would never hide. They say the Maker sent him special, always loyal without pride, so he could be a sworn companion of the Maker's holy bride. Oh, they thought the wounds had killed him, but then he limped out towards the fire. As a Hissaran, he shed a tear, as that dog laid on the pyre. Oh, and Hissaran, not as Hissaran. And then there's Andraste's Mabari by the holy prophet. Okay, chorus. Not gonna sing that every time, or say that. A popular, if historically unlikely, Ferelden Tavern song. That's awesome. I wish I had known that was a song when I started reading it. I thought it was just like a note.
That's her. She stopped the breach from getting any bigger.
I heard she was supposed to close it entirely. Still, it's more than anyone else has done.
Patient observations, day 3. Less thrashing. Some response to stimuli. Vital seems solid. 2 attempts so far by locals to break into Chantry to kill my patient. All this work to save her, and will they just execute her? Will inform Lady Cassandra, I expect her to wake before the morn. Wait, what? Are these the original days? Was I out for 3 days and I closed the rift? I was out for 3 more days? Because after I closed the rift, I don't know why the villagers would be trying to kill me. They certainly don't seem to want to kill me now. And yeah, this is what I'm talking about. I just noticed that that thing's blinking. So I have another point to spend. How do I... That's awkward. Oh no, you can use the very last one too. Okay, so that is Death Blow. Huh. That certainly seems like a very good ender, but I kind of want to build up... I want to get these next. Because like I said, I really like passives, so I'm going to go for flank attack. Because, yeah, the passives... I mean, I'm just building this to get every passive she can get in the tree, and then I'll move on to the active abilities. Because the passives, I've also noticed, give you stat bonuses. Nothing in there, apparently. That's the Chantry. I'm also curious, why are the notes about my recovery in different houses? Isn't the whole point of making notes? Here's another one. Just plaster on the side of a building. Well, have you ever heard the story of King Bedwyr? Bedwyr, like most kings, was a man of great pride who expected nothing but complete loyalty from his subjects. He believed the best way to achieve this was through fear. After all, those who feared him would never cross him or question his rule. Most importantly, those who feared him would always seek to please him. Bedwyr cultivated terror in his subordinates through the gleeful and unrestrained use of a contraption referred to as the Maiden. The Maiden was a hinged iron casket, as high and wide and deep as a man, with vicious spikes within, meant to pierce through the poor soul locked in it. Bedwyr's Maiden was a prized possession and stood in a place of honor in the throne room, often with a screaming victim inside. Political rivals, suspected assassins, treasonous ministers, the Maiden consumed them all. But as time passed, more people were given to the Maiden for increasingly trivial offenses. The cook for oversalting the king's food, the page boy for dropping his sword. The Maiden cast a pall over the kingdom, and the people prayed for deliverance from their cruel king. Then one day, a strange woman rode in the city. She called herself Ember and was an emissary from the far-off land. Her leaders had heard, she said, of Bedwyr's wisdom and authority, and she sought the king's counsel, and thought that he had earned the adulation of his brother kings across the sea made Bedwyr swell with pride, and he granted Ember an audience. They dined and they danced, and through it all, Ember flattered and fawned at the king. And at the end of the night, Ember asked to see the maiden, the infamous device that had given Bedwyr all his power. The king, giddy with praise, proudly presented Ember with the empty contraption. Ember looked at the maiden and said with disappointment, "That doesn't look terrifying at all. I should have imagined that it would be much sharper." Bedwyr grew red at her comment and replied, "Well, the spikes are sharp enough. Look at all the blood that still clings to them." "But it's so small," said Ember. "Are only children and women its victims?" Bedwyr grew redder still and replied, "Well, of course not. The maid has devoured many men." Ember shook her head and said to the king, "I do not believe it. Surely no warrior can fear this thing. A man like yourself, tall and muscled, would simply not fit within." The king laughed and saw a way to prove the merit of the maiden Ember. "Well, I will show you how easily a man myself can fetch," he said. And with that, he stepped into the device. But Ember was waiting, and no sooner had Bedwyr squeezed himself into the iron casket than Ember slammed it shut on him. Ember took the maiden with the screaming Bedwyr inside, through the castle and down into the city. And the people, finally free of the king's tyranny, cheered and danced to the singing that echoed through the streets, until Bedwyr was dead, and it finally stopped. Well, that's a great story to put at the side of your tavern. Not age inappropriate at all, and I guess I'm not going in there.
Maker be with you.
Of course the Maker's with me. I'm the chosen of Andraste, apparently.
Most of the great clerics died at the conflict.
I will.
Andraste didn't have grand clerics till the moment to
Okay. Here's what I was talking about at the very beginning. The Fade and their mages' association with it. The study of the Fade is as old as humankind. For so long as men has dreamed, we have walked its twisting paths, sometimes catching a glimpse of the city at its heart, always as close as our own thoughts, but impossibly separated from our world. The Tevinter Imperium once spent vast fortunes of gold, lyrium, and human slaves in an effort to map the terrain of the Fade, an ultimately futile endeavor. Although portions of it belong to powerful spirits, all of the fate is in constant flux. The Imperium succeeded only in finding the disparate and ever-shifting realms of a few dozen demon lords, as well as cataloging a few hundred types of spirits, before they were forced to abandon the project. The relationship of dreamers to the Fade is complex. Even when entering the Fade through the use of lyrium, mortals are not able to control or affect it. The spirits who dwell there, however, can, and as the Chantry teaches us, the great flaw of the spirits is that they have neither imagination nor ambition. They create what they see through the sleeping visitors, building elaborate copies of cities, people, and events, which, like the reflections in a mirror, ultimately lack the context or life of their own. Even the most powerful demons merely plagiarize the worst thoughts and fears of mortals, and build the realm with no other ambition but to taste life. 1 second, I'm getting a little parched now. It's always a problem whenever I do this for a while. Could probably be corrected if I would stop voice acting all the time, but I'm not gonna. Did I just see it? I did. The light shall lead her safely through the paths of this world and into the next. Well, I do not know how this is supposed to be. For she who trusts in the Maker, fire is her water, and as the moth sees light and goes towards flame, she should see fire and go towards light. The veil holds no uncertainty for her, and she will know no fear of death, for the Maker shall be her beacon, and her shield, her foundation, and her sword. That is a terrible chant. There's no rhythm to it. Walk without rhythm, and you won't attract the worm. Okay. Whoa, hey. Ow. I just hit my head on that? That's awesome. I wish I took damage. That's kind of a good... I mean, it's not cool that I can smack my head on things, but it's a really... I totally didn't expect that to happen. Ooh, loot. I'm looting your dungeons. Balanced dagger and something else. Weapons... There it is, balanced dagger. 100 DPS. And then the stiletto goes in the other hand. I don't know if this is true or not. But I'm so used to games where the weapon in your primary hand is more important than the one in your secondary hand. I always do that. Cordelis Draken, king of the city-state of Orlais, was a man of uncommon ambition. In the year -15 Ancient, the young king began construction of a great temple dedicated to the Maker, and declared that by its completion he would not only have united the warring city-states of the south, he would have brought Andrastian belief to the world. At -3 Ancient, the temple was completed. There, in its heart, Draken knelt before the eternal flame of Andraste, and was crowned ruler of the empire of Orlais. His first act as emperor was to declare the Chantry and establish Andrastian religion in the empire. For it took 3 years and several hundred votes before the Olesa of Montesamad was elected the leader of the new leader of the Chantry. Upon her coronation as divine, she took the name Justina, in honor of the disciple who recorded Andraste's songs. In that moment, the ancient era ended and the divine age began. Man, there's a lot of stuff down here. The Divine is the titular head of the Chantry. Although the schism split the Imperial Chantry to its own factions, there are now in fact 2 Divines at any one time. One Divine, informally called the White Divine, is a woman housed in the Grand Cathedral of Val Royale. The other Divine, known as the Black Divine, is a man housed in the Argent Spire of Minathros. Neither Divine recognizes the existence of the other, and the informal names are considered sacrilegious. No matter the gender, the Divine is addressed as Most Holy or Your Perfection. Beneath the rank of Divine is the Grand Cleric. Each Grand Cleric presides over numerous chantries and represents the highest religious authority for their region. They travel to Val Royale when the College of Clerics convenes, but otherwise remain where they are assigned. All Grand Clerics are addressed as Your Grace. Beneath the Grand Cleric is the Mother, or in the Imperial Chantry, the Father. If a mother is in charge of a particular chantry, revered is appended to her title. These are the priests responsible for administering the spiritual well-being of their flock. A mother or revered mother is addressed as Your Reverence. Brothers and sisters from the rank and file of the Chantry, and consist of 3 main groups: affirmed, initiates, and clerics. Affirmed are the lay brethren of the Chantry. These regular folks have turned the Chantry for succor. Often they are the people who have led a difficult and irreligious life, and have chosen to go into seclusion, or even orphans and similar unfortunates who were raised in the Chantry life. The affirmed take care of the Chantry, and are in turn afforded a life of quiet contemplation, no questions asked. Only those folk who take vows to become initiates, those men and women in training, whether in academic knowledge or martial skills of a warrior, all initiates will receive an academic education, although only those who become Templars learn how to fight in addition. Clerics are the true academics of the Chantry, these men and women who have dedicated themselves to the pursuit of knowledge, and are often found in Chantry archives, sages presiding over libraries and books of arcane knowledge. The most senior of these clerics placed in charge of such archives are given the title Elder, although that rank is still beneath that of Mother. All others, brothers and sisters, are addressed simply by noting their title before their name, such as Brother Genitivi. That, I'm kind of glad that's in here, because, yeah, I sort of wonder what happened to Brother Genitivi. He is the one who found this temple originally. I have keys. No, I can pick locks. Slightly different. More books. I'm running out of voices here. The disciples of Andraste are unique in all of history. The cult presided the Chantry and kept itself hidden and isolated to actually survive to the modern day. The disciples made their home high in the Frostback Mountain. Who is this? Okay, it is. It is a girl. I thought this might be Brother Genitivi, and I did not want to do his voice like that. The disciples made their home in a village in the Frostback Mountains, in a village called Haven, which is now a sanctuary for pilgrims of the Chantry. It is understood that the disciples were descendants of the first followers of Andraste, who brought their ashes to Ferelden and built a temple to house it. Because they had pledged themselves to keeping the Temple of Sacred Ashes, the disciples of Andraste never left the Frostback. For 900 years, they kept strangers away, killing all who came close, and were completely oblivious to the world that advanced beyond the boundaries of their home. Having developed separately from the traditions of the Andraste and Chantry, the disciples were led by revered fathers. However, little else is known about the original beliefs of the disciples, for they had turned from their noble heritage by the time they were discovered. Almost all scholars believe that the Chantry's long isolation imposed upon the village led to the necessity for inbreeding. This practice likely led to a greater instance of madness, which may explain why the culture was, at the time of its discovery in 930, worshipping a high dragon. According to writings discovered in Haven, the disciples of Andraste showed reverence to the dragon, believing it to be the prophet reborn. The egg clutches and the dragonlings of the dragon were afforded great honor for the beings Andraste's offering. They were cared for by the cult, and the dragon never attacked the cult, being cunning enough to recognize how this arrangement benefited it. In 930, the disciples were wiped out by the hero of Ferelden, who went on a quest to retrieve the sacred ashes of Andraste. That is quite true. I did that. Definitely did not side with these guys. These guys were jerks. There was once a tiny fishing village on the Waken Sea that was set apart by the Tevinter Imperium, who enslaved the village and sold the soul in the markets of Minothras. Leaving behind only old and infirm, one of the captives was the child Andraste. She was raised in slavery in a foreign land. She escaped and made a long and treacherous journey back to her homeland alone. She rose from nothing to be the wife of an Alamari warlord. Each day she sang to the gods, asking them to help her people who remained slaves in Tevinter. The false gods of the mountains and the winds did not answer her, but the true God did. The Maker spoke. He showed all the world the works of his hands, the Fade, the world, and all creatures therein. He showed her how men had forgotten him, lavishing devotion upon mute idols and on demons, and how he had left them to their fate. But her voice had reached him, and so captivated him that he offered her a place at his side, that she might rule all of creation. But Andraste would not forsake her people. She begged the Maker to return, save his children from the cruelty of the Imperium. Reluctantly, the Maker agreed to give man another chance. And the Andraste went back to her husband, Malafrith, and told him that the Maker had revealed all to her. Together they rallied the Alamari and marched forth against the Maid Lords of the Imperium, and the Maker was with them. The Maker's sword was creation itself, fire and flood, famine and earthquake. Everywhere they went, Andraste sang to the people of the Maker, and they heard her. The ranks of Andraste's followers grew until they were a vast tide washing over the Imperium. And when Malafrith saw that the people loved Andraste and not him, a worm grew in his heart, gnawing upon it, and it was known as wormwood. At last, the armies of Andraste and Malafrith stood before the very gates of Minothras. But Andraste was not with them, for Malafrith had schemed in secret to hand Andraste over to the Tevinter. For this, the Archon would give Malafrith all the land south of the Waken Sea. And so, before all the armies of Alamari and of the Tevinter, Andraste was tied to a stake and burned, while her earthly husband turned his armies aside and did nothing, for his heart had been devoured. But as he watched the pyre, the Archon softened and took pity on Andraste, and drew his sword, granted her the mercy of a quick death. The Maker wept for his beloved, cursed Mellifluth, and cursed mankind for their betrayal, and turned once again from his creation, taking only Andraste with him. And Our Lady still sits at his side, where he still urges him to take pity on his children. Why was this locked up? This is like... I mean, if I hadn't been playing a rogue, would I have missed out on all this stuff? Here, there's still another one. No traveler in the Fade can fail to spot the Black City. It is one of the few constants of that ever-changing place. No matter where one might be, the city is visible, always far off, for it seems the only rule of geography in the Fade is that all points are equidistant from the Black City. The chant teaches us that the Black City was once the seat of the Maker, from whence he ruled the Fade, left empty when man turned away from him. The dreamers do not go there, nor do spirits. Even the most powerful demons seem to avoid the place. It was golden and beautiful once, so the story goes, until a group of powerful Magister lords from the Deventer Imperium devised a means of breaking in. When they did so, their presence defiled the city, turning it black, which was perhaps the least of their worries. That was really interesting. Again, I have to wonder, why was that locked away? I would have been super sad if I hadn't got to learn all that stuff. Okay, there seems to be nothing in here. Something over here, though. Interesting. Schematics. I wonder what those are for. Open this one. I wonder if opening locks gives me experience. I know in other BioWare games it does, but I haven't seen any pop-up about it. Looks like nothing in here either. Lame. I'm sure there's a reason to do this. Oh, hey. I can light a light. They locked up loot? And stocks, or a pillory. I don't know the difference, actually. But I know it's one of those two. Alright. Well, I'm super glad I came down here. That is fantastico. I'm going up. Oh, how did that get shut again? I bet whenever you, like, leave an area in the game, like...
Completely mad. She should be taken to Val Royo immediately. To be tried by whomever...
Dude, I'm the only one that can close rifts. What if they open again?
The prisoner failed, Seeker. The breach is still in the sky. For all you know, she intended it this way.
I do not believe that.
That is not for you to decide. Your duty is to serve the Chantry.
My duty is to serve the principles on which the Chantry was founded, Chancellor, as is yours.
That's actually a really nice line there. It kind of reminds me... I know in history class they were talking about how there's like 4 different interpretations of what being a senator means. Some people will argue that being a senator means representing the people that you know, in your district, in your state, or whatever. Some people argue that they elected you senator, so they expect you to use your best judgment and not necessarily do things that are best for them personally. Some people argue that they elected you senator because of your party, and so you should work along with your party. And I forget the 4th way, but it's just like all kinds of different beliefs and understandings of what being in specific positions actually means. And so I'm kind of glad that it's not open and shut here. And another thing to read. There are many misconceptions regarding Andraste's bloodline, monsieur. This is due, I should think, to a general lack of knowledge regarding the Andraste mortal life. Understandable, considering that many of the cults following her death, everyone sought to claim Our Lady with their own culture, except that some aspects of her existence was a lie. All of them complete fabrications. My order has done considerable research to ascertain the truth. We all know Andraste and the betrayer raised 5 children. The eldest 3 were sons, Isorath, Everon, and Verald. The rule of what was once Southern Tavento was split amongst them. Isorath was given the west, which is today Orlais. Everon was given the east, which is today the Friedmarches. And Velaroth has given the central Panacene, which is today Navarra. What became of these men and their legacies is the stuff of legend, and the majority of claimants for Andraste's bloodline link back to one of them. However, none of the 3 sons, however, were born of Andraste. They were given to one of the Betrayer's concubine, Gillivan. People choose to overlook the fact that Andraste came from the Alamari tribesmen and that they were barbarians. Not the Ferelden's that we know today. They were savage warriors who took concubines in addition to their wives. And because the Andraste was thought to be too weak to bear children, the betrayer took Gillivan to provide him with heirs, which she did. After her death, the sons were raised as Andraste's own. Later in life, Andraste proved predictions wrong and had 2 daughters by the betrayer, Ebris and Vivial. They were kept out of the public eye and were not permitted to marry, though both had consorts. Ebris had but one child, Alevama, who perished on the voyage to Denerim, less than a month after his mother fell to the plague. And without children of her own, the youngest daughter Vivial was more controversial, a strong-headed woman who defied her family by falling in love with a mage from Deventer, Regulan. Vivial and Regulan went into self-imposed exile in the Exalted March began, and into hiding following Andraste's betrayal and murder. What became of Vivial and her descendants is largely unknown, for one primary reason: she had only daughters. Each of those daughters had only daughters. They married into other families and took other names, and in the chaos of the Second Blight, all traces of survivors were lost. Andraste's true bloodline, if it exists, lies solely in the descendants of Vivial, and the suspicion of my order is that it produces only daughters. Thus the claims of your young man, monsieur, are highly suspect. Well, that's hilarious, and actually...
Please tell me if you find something.
Oh, hi! I did not see you there.
I believe Seeker Pentagast was looking for you.
Interesting. I said turn in research, but it said, what did it say? No creature research items to remove. What's a creature research item? Should I have that yet? If so, I totally missed it. But yeah, it's also interesting that tale about the, like, daughters they go on forever kind of reminds me of Morrigan and, Flemeth and Morrigan. There was no word. For heaven or for earth, for sea or sky, all that existed was silence. Then the voice of the Maker rang out, the first word, and his word became all that might be, dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. And from it he made his firstborn, and he said to them, In my image I forge you, to you I give dominion over all that exists, by your will may all things be done. Then in the center of heaven he called forth a city with towers of gold, streets with music for cobblestones, and banners which flew without wind. There he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. The children of the Maker gathered before his golden throne and sang hymns of praise unending. But their songs were the songs of the cobblestones. They shone with golden light reflected from the Maker's throne. They held forth the banners that flew on their own. And the voice of the Maker shook the Fade, saying, In my image I have wrought my firstborn. You have been given dominion over all that exists. By your will all things are done, and yet you do nothing. The realm I have given you is formless, ever-changing. He knew that he had wrought amiss. So the Maker turned from his firstborn and took from the Fade a measure of its living flesh, and placed it apart from spirits, and spoke to it, saying, Here I decree opposition in all things, for earth, sky, for winter, summer, for darkness, light. And by my will alone is balance sundered, and the world given new life. And no longer was it formless, ever-changing, but held fast, immutable, with words for heaven and for earth, sea and for sky. At last did the Maker form the living world, make men immutable and the substance of the earth, with souls made of dream and idea, hope and fear, endless possibilities. And then the Maker said, To you, my second-born, I grant this gift. In your heart shall burn an unquenchable flame, all-consuming and never satisfied. From the Fade I crafted you, and into the Fade you shall return each night in dreams, so that you may always remember me. And then the Maker sealed the gates of the Golden City, and there he dwelled, waiting to see the wonders his children would create. Coolies. Okay. And our reading time is done.
Chain her! I want her prepared for travel to the capital for trial.
Disregard that and leave us.
Well, you can tell who's in charge.
You walk a dangerous line, Seeker.
No, you walk a dangerous line trying to kill me in front of my face.
It is still a threat. I will not ignore it.
So, yeah, I'm still a suspect after I steal the breach for you guys?
So I'm still a suspect, even after what we just did.
You absolutely are.
No, she is not.
Someone was behind the explosion at the Conclave. Someone most holy did not expect. Perhaps they died with the others, or have allies who yet live.
I am a suspect?
You, and many others.
You are awfully eager to pawn off
Not the prisoner.
I heard the voices in the temple. The Divine called to her for help.
So her survival, that thing on her hand, all a coincidence.
Providence. The Maker sent her to us in our darkest
Yeah,
hour.
the most holy divine wants me to help. Who are you to disagree with her? Huh. Yeah, what else do you want me to do exactly?
The breach is stable now. What more do you want from me?
We must try again.
The breach remains, and your mark is still our only hope of closing it.
This is not for you to decide.
Not for you either, sir.
You know what this is, Chancellor. A writ from the Divine, granting us the authority to act. As of this moment, I declare the Inquisition reborn. We will close the breach, we will find those responsible, and we will restore order with or without your approval.
So there.
This is the Divine's directive. Rebuild the Inquisition of old. Find those who will stand against the chaos. We aren't ready. We have no leader, no numbers. And now, no Chantry support.
But we have no choice. We must act now, with you at our side.
Yeah, what is the Inquisition of old exactly?
What is the Inquisition of old?
Oh, wow, okay.
It preceded the Chantry. People who banded together to restore order in a world gone mad.
After, they laid down their banner and formed the Templar Order, but the Templars have lost their way. We need those who can do what must be done, united under a single banner once more.
Will we have to fight the Chantry? You said they didn't support us. Will they actively oppose us?
But aren't you still part of the Chantry?
Is that what you see?
The Chantry will take time to find a new Divine. And then it will wait for her direction.
But we cannot wait. So many Grand Clerics died at the Conclave. No, we are on our own. Perhaps forever.
Well, let's do it. I definitely want to help, like, seal the rifts and not have this thing hanging over our world.
If you're truly trying to restore order,
That is the plan.
Help us fix this before it's too late.
Oh, who are these people? Obviously, I recognize Cassandra and Liliana, but I don't know who the other two are. They're probably important, though. Spread the word. The Inquisition has begun. Why are we telling them to expect the Inquisition? That ruins the joke. That is Dinnerum, I believe. That I don't know where that is. Probably Kirkwall. Because that's the two big cities we know about. Although who knows, that could have been Val Royal and Minothras too. It's a very flashy banner. Did we just take his Chantry away from him? No wonder that the Chantry doesn't like us too much. a very appropriate time for that banner to fall. Alright. And so ends the prologue, and also ends the part that I had previously played. Tune in next time when we start playing the game, I guess for real. I mean, I had played it. Obviously, the game so far has been real, but it hasn't been. It's been areas I've seen before. But from here, we start the true blind portion of the blind run. Look forward to it, and I will see you next time for more Let's Play Dragon Age Inquisition. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.